All right, we're going to make a potassium bromide KBR pellet, is what we usually call it. So right here, there's some instructions that work very nice. The number one thing you want to do, as far as I'm concerned, is you take your mortar, okay, put it on the scale, just zero it, right? So it's nice and zeroed. The trick now is, as per these instructions, 0.2 grams of potassium bromide works very nicely. And I found myself that for qualitative, not quantitative, research grade work here, a qualitative IR of an organic material, anywhere from 0.2 to 0.25 is normally fine. I used to, without weighing, talk about a small green pea sized amount. So something like that is what I would sort of start with, but let's check out how much that ends up weighing. That's 0.19. I usually like mine to be just a little thicker so that they're not as easy to have it fall apart. So I'll start with 0.23 and that's fine. So we take this over here. The next trick, and this is where you can follow the instructions which suggest go to the analytical balance and weigh out 1.5 milligrams, which is 0.0015 grams. That's very time consuming. If you want to give it a shot, my rule of thumb, and here's the other thing about this, if your solid compound is really, really good at catching infrared photons, this 1.5 milligrams is too much. You can get some flat-lined absorptions. It's catching too much of the IR. You get other compounds where the 1.5 grams isn't enough. I've had some compounds you literally have to put in 4 or 5 milligrams. This is a very nice middle-of-the-road amount to start off with. But with a little experience, what I usually do is this. For solid compounds, I say, you want to try, and if you've ever used a straight pin, the normal straight pin with that tiny, almost like a 1 millimeter pin head, the pin head amount is what I shoot for. So I always use the tiny end of this micro spatula, and I know it starts out with a little guesswork, but I add in that tiny amount. Okay? The worst thing you could ever do, and sometimes students do this, and I've done it myself years ago, is I mistake this and I'll put in 0.2 grams of my solid material with very little KBR. So basically you make this pellet that's almost pure solid compound. You don't want to do that. So now we have to grind this up. And the trick here is to grind up any crystals or chunks, and we want to have an evenly distributed sample within the KBR. So you can knock it down to the center a bit, grind it up a few times, and when the powder looks like that, you're good to go. And then just like in the dyes and the sodium chloride salt plates video clip, we already went over this a little bit. You take 2 of these pellets, the shiny surfaces, you put 1 in first, and we're supposed to try not to use our hands because our oils on our hands can get in there. And all we're going to do is take this. You don't need a weigh boat. Get that in there as best you can, and when you look down the hole, you want to evenly distribute the powder a bit, so shake it, hit it lightly. Take the other shiny surface. We're going to make a sandwich out of that white powder with these 2 metal plates. Pick either one of the pistons that fits. This one fits a little bit tighter, this one fits nice and easy, so I always choose the one that fits a little easier, right? Push that down a bit, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the press. So I'm going to go over here. I'll try and reset this just a bit. All right, I know it's not perfect, but it's the way it is. So, with your safety glasses on, this is the press. This is nothing more than a hydraulic jack. That's all it is. We're going to take this, put it right in the center, shut the door. Right here, there is it's a large screw, essentially, that all the way clockwise and slightly tight, it allows you to keep the pressure in here and you can jack away no problem. When you want to lower it, you simply turn it counterclockwise and you'll see that this platform will sink. It's a hydraulic jack. So tighten this up. And over here on the side, I mean, you can't see it in the video, but right here on the side, there's a pressure gauge. And there's a note right here that says, do not exceed 8 tons, okay? Because if you do, you can cause that metal, right? In the past, students have done this. This metal can actually fragment and pieces of this can come shooting out, okay? You don't even need 8 tons. I've done this with 5 or 6 tons and it works fine, but keep an eye on this, and you can put this extra handle on because when you get up to a sizable pressure, it's hard to use your hand on this. This gives you more leverage. So we'll crank this up. When you still have an inch or so to go, it's easy just to bring it up. As soon as you feel some pressure, and put this on, and I'll crank this up to 6 tons. 6 to 8 works great. Let it sit for maybe 10 seconds. The biggest trick here is when you undo this to release the pressure, use 2 hands very firmly on this and very, very, ever so slowly crack that open. Watch this needle, because if you open this too fast and the black needle just drops, sometimes you can crack your KBR pellet. So the trick is open it ever so slowly so that needle just slowly drops over, 20 seconds is fine. Then you can open this up, you take this out, this piston's going to come out anyway, so you hold it, take your die apart. In my experience, these steel pellets that have squished my KBR have never just automatically, easily come out. So what we're going to do, and I've chosen the die that has that spacing, so I'm going to turn it upside down, put it in the press, and you want this piston to be slowly pushed up so that I can see the KBR pellet. So tighten this, crank it up. We've got an inch of space here to take up, so it takes quite a few cranks. There we go. As soon as it makes contact, make sure that you hold the die and that piston in your hand, because when you slowly push it, if it breaks free of friction and the thing wants to drop, you could lose your pellet. So you want to hold the 2 of them, and you can feel it. Aha, right there. You can feel it when your pellets come free, right? Because, and I can show you how it's free because I can easily just push it by hand. See how I can rise that up, and the KBR pellet's in the middle. So I'll set this down here. And I'll reset this camera so we can get a look here. Lower that down. Aha. There we go. And it's up to you. For me, when you get comfortable with it, I just take it right off the top, but it's almost like playing that kids game Operation where you got these tweezers, and if you touch the sides, this buzzer goes off. This could fall down. I grabbed the 2 of them. So let's see if we can get a look at this. You can see in between that little white film, that's our KBR pellet. So what I usually do is I set it down very carefully. Sometimes the KBR pellet wants to stick to the bottom one, sometimes like it is here, it sticks to the top. Now notice there was 1 inch spacing in mine. When I gently touched the side of it with my finger, the KBR pellet fell down. And it didn't break, which is fine, but normally if it's sitting there like that, this is what I do. You get these tweezers, and I always kind of stretch them a bit so they got enough space. And here is the device. We're gonna put the KBR pellet right down in there. I usually grab it just like that. See how you can hold it, not too hard, but not too light. The trick is, if you're going to transfer it, keep it low, because if you do drop the KBR pellet, it won't fall very far and it won't break. You can transfer it in here, and you screw this in. As soon as you feel that it's just lightly snugging up on that KBR pellet, that's great. And you can see, there it is, and it's sitting right there. So this is making a KBR pellet and putting it in the device to hold it for the spectrometer.